All right, folks, welcome to the show. This is the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. I'm your host, Zach Rector, and today we have the honor and privilege of welcoming Simon McLoughlin, CEO of Uphold. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Hi, Zach. Great to see you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Well, first off, I just want to take the opportunity here to thank you personally for keeping XRP available for us over here across the pond in the United States through this lawsuit that's still going on. We did get our appeal yesterday, but I do want to personally thank you for allowing me to load up my bags all through this lawsuit because the SEC's actions weren't going to stop us from loading up. I appreciate you.
Well, great stuff. We feel very proud and vindicated to have supported it over the past few years.
Awesome. Now, you took over as CEO of Uphold not too long ago, so run us through that story and where you come from before you came to Uphold.
Sure. I took over as CEO in January 22. Before that, I was COO of the business for 3 years, 4 years. And before that, I was basically in trading systems and platforms that opened up access to investments for institutional investors and platforms that opened up, created secondary markets in private company shares. So I've been in financial services for about 20 years. So this is a great new space to be in.
Yeah, and when did you first get into cryptocurrencies?
I first got into cryptocurrencies by accident, which I moved to live in New York in 2012, and I just couldn't believe how slow and difficult and expensive it was to move money. Because I mean, you're pretty basic, right? You want to move money from a UK bank account to a US bank account. It's unbelievably slow. And because I was working on kind of trading systems and platforms, you know that money is basically just digital information on a ledger. Therefore, you know it can be sent instantly and at virtually no cost. So that got me interested. And then I happened to go into a bookstore in Union Square where I lived, and it was about Bitcoin. And I really had one of those eureka moments when it was just like, wow, okay, that's a fundamental innovation that's going to transform everything. The notion that somebody with an internet connection on a phone can move value without any intermediary blew my mind. And what really got me interested in it was interesting seeing the people who were critics. There was a guy called, I think it was Paul Fussell, who used to basically say, yeah, there's no fundamental value there. And I was like, what are you talking about? Surely this is one of the greatest creations of fundamental value ever. The ability to move value securely and safely anywhere in the world via the internet is a big deal. So that's how I got into it. And, I very determinedly tried to get into the industry by writing on spec to a bunch of firms.
Now, obviously, we have the breaking news of the SEC, asking for permission to appeal the ruling, and we're going to get into that later. But before we do, I did want to talk about kind of the macro financial banking crisis, the exchanges, and how Uphold has been preparing for this bear market and this chaos in the crypto space that we've got to experience. And funny enough, you came in last year in January, kind of right at the start of the bear market, right? We had just finished that last bull run. We were all having a good time. And then we started to roll over, and we've been in a 1.5-year bear market. Some say that we've started the next bull run, but I'll leave that debate up for them. How did you handle taking the helm of this company during the middle of a bear market? And how is Uphold, how did you guys prepare to ride out this bear market?
Sure. So, I mean, I think a big part of it, the bear market has been obviously made worse by the FTX crash and the loss of trust in certain centralized players. And for Uphold, that actually played in our favor because we're very unlike the other centralized players in this space. We're the only platform that publishes our assets and liabilities on a public website every 30 seconds. So our customers know the money is there and can get it out. We never loan out money. We use an audit firm, RSM Robson Rhodes, with a global reputation. So I think those strengths, which are really to do with trust and transparency and security, served us extremely well during what's been a very difficult period for the industry. I'm very proud that, for example, in the last 8 months, we haven't had a single month of outflows. We've had very strong inflows every month. And I think that's because in this market, people obviously go to venues that are trusted, fair, and transparent. The other thing that served us well is we spotted this massive increase in DeFi usage after FTX, and we've innovated quite heavily. So we've introduced Topper, which is a fiat to crypto on-ramp, which allows you to buy all of the tokens, the 266 tokens we offer on Uphold on a non-custodial basis. We're very chuffed with the way Topper's gone. The card decline rates are half those of the competitors, and there's this enormous token choice. And the other thing we've done is introduced a range of custody options. So we've introduced Uphold, which is a self-custody wallet, and we're about to introduce Uphold Vault, which is an assisted form of self-custody to make it easy for the average person. So, I mean, it's been a very difficult 12 to 14 months, but I do think our sort of core value proposition of trust and transparency has got people very comfortable. And, we've stood by communities that we trust and believe in, XRP being one. I mean, right now we're operating profitably and we're actually hiring staff. So, it's actually been, I think, less difficult than we feared, but challenging.
Well, and if I'm correct, you guys don't loan out customer deposits ever, right?
We don't. No, we don't loan out customer money at all. And, from 2014, right from the inception of the company, we published our obligations to customers and the assets backing those obligations every 30 seconds on a public website. So it's been interesting, over the past year to see other firms sort of try and catch up with proof of reserves and everything. But, that doesn't really mean a lot because you don't know if assets have been hypothecated. So the combination you need is total transparency, publication on a public website, but combined with using a well-known audit firm that has a global reputation. And also, it sounds very tedious, but just a very strong governance structure. The chairman of Uphold is a guy called Jim Hilton, who's a former federal regulator. Uphold Europe our chairman is a guy called Kevin Lutwig, who is, again, a former 7-year FCA regulator. Having those governance structures in place is just incredibly important as a financial institution.
Yeah, that's incredible, because I noticed that in the Binance case, actually, they just failed to provide an audit. They asked for an extension to file their audit in their case, which is not a good look, right? So that's something that we're watching over there. I've been thoroughly impressed with you guys. And the fact that, when you keep it that simple, you just simply don't loan out your clients' deposits, that helps. And so that's just, incredible. And I think that's why you're still seeing the inflows that you're seeing, obviously. Now, I wanted to ask you, did the banking crisis in the United States impact your guys' business in any sort of way? I know you guys are not like a traditional exchange. You're more like a prime broker, and you have many options. So how did the banking crisis affect you guys, if at all?
Well, I think the banking crisis in the US affected everybody, from well-known banks. If you'd have told me 8 months ago that Silicon Valley Bank was going to, disappear, I wouldn't have believed you. So I think everybody was affected, and it's been a difficult period, but I'm very chuffed that Uphold has retained access to US bank rails. And in these kind of situations, what it comes down to is banks in the US will work with crypto firms, providing you have a very robust control framework. In other words, they don't want to take on risk. And because Uphold has invested very heavily in compliance and licensing, compliance is actually our second largest department now. I think our banking partners were very comfortable working with us. Fundamentally, getting a banking partner as a crypto firm in the US is interesting, and it comes down to you have to sell your own compliance function and control framework to the bank's compliance department. And they really put you through the ringer, but it's something that we've taken seriously for a long, long time, and it's really helped us.
And how does it compare, trying to do business in the United States versus doing business in the UK right now for crypto?
I guess the difference is in the UK, there's been a policy decision that they want to be a welcoming home for crypto assets. The government is now very clear the technology isn't going to go away. They recognize that blockchain technology is here to stay, and they've got to set up clear rules. So we're one of only five platforms in the United Kingdom, five large platforms in the United Kingdom that are registered crypto asset firms with the FCA. The FCA put us through a hell of a process a year ago to get that status. It was incredibly thorough and incredibly professionally run, and was very beneficial for us. I mean, the difference I think is we're a compliant firm. We just want to know what the rules are. You tell us what the rules are, we'll follow the rules. But it gets very difficult when the rules are not clear, and you're kind of you're trying to plan in an environment in the US where there's still a lack of certainty. Having said all that, I think the situation in the US now is much better than it was 6 months ago. Obviously, we've had the Ripple Court victory. We've got draft legislation, the McHenry draft bill. We've got Loomis. And the interesting thing is that although the UK and EEA have sort of taken the lead in creating clear rules for crypto firms, I think in those draft bills in the US, there's a degree of granularity and precision that's lacking in the UK and Europe. So my own gut feel is that the US might be late to the party in terms of getting clear regs together. But I think when they do it, and they will do it, it'll be clear and have a degree of detail in. For example, the McHenry bill defines, decentralization very clearly. MICA hasn't done that. So I guess my overall answer would be, it's easier in the UK today, but the US is getting much better, and I think it's going to continue to improve.
Well, that's good to hear. I know we've been patiently waiting. And before we get into the Ripple SEC news, I did want to ask, because we continue to see this chaos in the crypto space through manipulation, stable coins. There's a new stable coin that's created every single day. They've been created to prop up exchanges, to do this and that. So I wanted to get your take on kind of all this. And we originally lined up this, and it's been a month or so since we started this conversation. And since then, like I said, we've seen a couple bigger stable coins pop up, and they get these market caps of a few billion, and then they just kind of go away, right? And this is the problem for me with the crypto space right now. As an XRP holder, we're celebrating because we just won. This is all great for us. But then you look around and you're just seeing rampant manipulation, and the stable coins being one of the primary tools that these exchanges are doing this. We don't have to speak on any exchange in particular, but is this as concerning to you as it is to me?
It is, yeah. I mean, stable coins are a completely necessary intermediary in the world of crypto. I think it's incredibly important that stable coins are clearly pegged to the underlying currency, and that the issuers are completely transparent in the reserves that are supporting the peg. I think the PayPal news this week is incredibly encouraging, because I don't believe that a company of that magnitude and size from the TradFi space would introduce a stablecoin without the tacit nod from the regulators. So I really do think that's an incredibly positive development. Personally, what I find rather kind of perplexing is I don't understand why the central banks are making it so difficult to get their head around the importance of stablecoins and their own participation in the space. But I think it's a positive story. PayPal coming out with a stablecoin is fantastic news for our industry. Yeah,
and I'm excited to see all this get cleaned up. To me, I don't know if you have similar sentiment, but to me it seems like the manipulators and the fraudsters got busted after Luna in May of last year, and then FTX. And it was like after that, it's like they just went full bore with their plans of manipulation, and they figured out, well, if we're going to get caught, we might as well go all the way. And it seems like it's just ramped up here recently. So hopefully that gets cleaned up. And I think that once we clean up that and we get our regulations, this space is set to absolutely take off. Now, speaking of taking off, let's talk about your initial reaction at the offices of Uphold when you guys saw this order from Judge Torres come out and a flood of buy orders come in. What was it like in the offices of Uphold?
Well, I think it was elation, right? I mean, it's been a long and lonely battle. We took quite a big, bold decision a couple of years ago to continue supporting it in the United States when a lot of other trading venues did not. So when the announcement came out, it was complete elation and vindication because it was a big bet for us. I think when we read the judgment, it was a very considered judgment. I thought she was very smart in only applying existing jurisprudence on the Howey test to her ruling. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but in my opinion, that makes it very hard to appeal. It's not like she's introduced novel concepts. She rejected Ripple's argument, for example, on the key ingredients test. By not introducing sort of judge-made law, I think it makes it much, much harder for her decision to be successfully repealed. I heard the other day from John Deaton, actually, that she's really, I think she's only had 2 decisions ever repealed. And John was drawing a distinction. I can't remember the other judge. It was in one of the other cases, but that other judge had 77 decisions appealed. So, I think she did a great job, and it will be hard for the SEC to successfully appeal it.
Well, and now we know that they're not. Well, they can't appeal yet, right? So now they filed for permission to appeal. That's essentially, in layman's terms, what they did yesterday, right?
Right.
And they're going after the programmatic sales and the individual sales. And so we were kind of expecting some sort of appeal, right? And so this, I don't think, was a shocker to anybody. But like you alluded to, John Dean and some of these other lawyers, not just because they're been covering the XRP case and they're our friends, but Judge Torres really did a bulletproof order on XRP in and of itself not being a security. Now, those institutional sales are going to continue on. Programmatic sales, she might grant them the ability to appeal that. We'll see. How amazing would that be if she turned down and rejected the SEC on that appeal? Wouldn't that be something? But,
Yes.
What do you think about what this is going to do for Ripple's business? Monica Long, president of Ripple, has said that they've started up conversations again with banks, institutions, and payment providers in the United States. And I take that, if she's telling us publicly that they've started up conversations, I'm, interjecting my speculation here. I would assume that they've been having some talks already, and maybe they've already got some deals already, kind of the templates already laid out. Now we just need to hash out the final details. And I've put out the prediction on the record that I think we're going to hear from the first U.S. institution payment provider. Might not necessarily be a bank, but a payment provider. I think we're going to get the first announcement this year. Now, maybe that won't happen if this appeals process goes through. Any thoughts on when we're going to see a U.S. bank institution payment provider say they're using XRP?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you think about it. On Ethereum for the last 2 years, they've been fixing problems to do with speed, scaling, and cost. And XRP never had those problems from design. But while this court case was going on, you had a tremendous number of enterprises and developers who wanted to build or use the ledger, the XRP ledger. They were standing on the sidelines. As things stand today, Bitcoin and XRP, there's total clarity now in US law as it stands today that they are not securities. And I think, personally, I believe it's inevitable that we're going to see adoption in the US by US banks and institutions of the XRP ledger now. So, yeah, I just think a tremendous amount of doubt has been lifted. It's kind of, as I say, it's kind of ironic. The last 2 years of Ethereum, they've been trying to fix these issues that XRP never had.
Now, and I did want to ask and clarify, you guys during that moment had 50 times the volume that you experienced during the last bull run, right? Am I getting that right? Yeah,
we did. It was a very freak event because we were literally the only trading venue in the United States that offered XRP, and within minutes of the announcement, we saw a 50x spike in volume compared to the peak of the 21 bull run. And it wasn't so much the increase in volume, it was the suddenness of the spike. So it was literally within 3 minutes we got a 50x spike, and it was after a specific tweet went out actually, and that created real challenges because you have issues with systems not talking to each other, and we'd already sort of tested the platform for 10x the peak of the 21 market. But the thing that caught us out this time was just the violent suddenness of the spike. So we've obviously made a whole bunch of changes since then that will prevent any problems going forward.
I like that you use the word violent because that's how I've been describing this moment that we just went through. 2.5 years in the community, you're the boy that cried wolf, and everybody's thinking it's never going to come through, it's never going to happen. And then sure enough, and I warned about exchanges not being able to handle this moment either. And it's not even that necessarily your systems can't handle it. It was just that all at once, like you said. And so I know you guys have beefed up. You guys are making other preparations now. What about for preparations on, the top side when everybody's trying to hit the off ramp? What have you guys done there?
We've done a lot. I mean, one of the things I love about Uphold is the depth of liquidity we offer. So I think it's not common knowledge, but we're actually we operate effectively as a prime broker, and we're connected to 30 underlying venues. So, and that includes decentralized exchanges. So we're connected to CeFi exchanges, DeFi exchanges, layer twos, and roll-ups. And that means that we've got access to a tremendous depth of liquidity because we're trading through multiple venues. So in practical terms, what does that mean? Number one, it means we poll the market on a buy order. We obtain the very best price. So customers have a nice price advantage. On the sell side, when people try to sell, there's a depth of liquidity there because you've got access to multiple order books. This was shown, when Luna happened last year, Uphold was one of the very few places where you could continue to sell it way past when other CeFi venues, their order books had burned through. So I do think that depth of liquidity, being able to sell when you want to sell, is an absolute core virtue of ours.
Yeah. And now you guys are launching the vault that's going to start off for the XRP community. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I do, yeah. So, I mean, self-custody for the average person is still, impractical, dangerous, hard to use. And so we're introducing something called the Uphold Vault, which is an assisted form of self-custody, sits in the Uphold app itself. And what it means is you can you send your digital assets to a self-custody wallet. You hold 2 of the keys. We hold one of the keys. If you lose one of your keys, we can put our key together with your remaining key to create a new key to replace the key you've lost. So it's a lot less scary than self-custody. And for the average person, I think it really makes it a practical proposition. It's multi-chain. We start with the XRP ledger, and it allows people to move funds from the Uphold platform to their self-custody wallet instantly, equally pull the funds back. And the big benefit, obviously, is that you, the customer, hold 2 of the keys. You can move those funds without any recourse or dependency on Uphold. So really, we're very excited about it because it makes self-custody a practical proposition for the average person.
And then there's a lot of excitement about the automated market makers coming to the XRP ledger too. And my, kind of speculation was that many exchanges like yourselves will just provide that public UI for us to access some of these AMMs once they become available, come vetted. Maybe you guys will create your own AMM, or maybe how you have, 30, 50 different venues. You said maybe you'll have a pick of AMMs that we can participate in. Any plans like that for you guys with the AMMs?
Yeah, it's something we're looking at really intensively. I mean, we appreciate that everybody who holds XRP would like a return on their investment. So we'd like to find a way of doing that. A big role of Uphold is to strip away the complexity of DeFi tools and services and make them easy to use, make them practical to use, and make them safe as far as we can. We looked at AMMs on XRPL about a year ago, and it was just too young. There wasn't the liquidity at the time, but since then it's grown dramatically. I see that on-chain activity on XRPL over the past quarter has increased 9% to 160 million. And that activity is reflected in DEX volumes, which have increased by 34% over the previous quarter to $115 million. So it's definitely something we are looking at, and we want to find a way of offering some kind of reward or yield to people holding XRP. And this is a pretty interesting way. I mean, my own view of it is, we need to offer people the option. We need to properly disclose the risks. And then if the customer opts to accept the risk, then we provide an easy gateway to it. The main issue here is disclosing the risks so that the customer can knowingly enter into the service.
Yeah, that leads us into staking. And the community was very disappointed. There was another exchange, I think it was Bitstamp, that offered their lend program up last week, and it was only a 2% return on their lend program, right? Now, I came out and I made a video for the community, and I explained, I said, guys, I know we're disappointed, but understand this is just, one of many that are coming our way, many options to leverage, lend, stake, automated market makers coming. There's going to be many ways to leverage our XRP, and we have to understand where the yield is being generated from. And so in this case, I made the example. I said, well, this 2% is not very exciting for many people, but it probably is sustainable, because they could just go turn around and buy US treasuries and make twice on the money and pay you back your 2%. And that would be sustainable, right? But if they offer 20%, people would focus on that 20%, and then they wouldn't do their due diligence on where that yield is coming from. I mean, look at what happened during the DeFi summer last year. Everybody was chasing the highest returns possible. Well, you're getting paid back in a token that's losing value every single day and is a glorified Ponzi scheme, right? So, U.S. staking not available for that Bitstamp 2% program wasn't available for the U.S. I know you guys are offering staking for the U.S. right now. How soon do you think that we could get staking available for the U.S.? And what are your general thoughts on where the yield's being generated on these DeFi programs?
Sure. I mean, we don't offer a staking program in the US at the moment. We did, and we withdrew it. It's one of the decisions we made that I'm most uncomfortable with. I would like to bring back staking in the US early next year. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I fundamentally don't understand how staking, it depends on the facts and circumstances and the documentation and the offer and all of that kind of stuff. But inherently, I don't understand how staking on a blockchain it meets the Howey test. The Howey test requires an investment of money. Staking, you're not investing money. So I don't get it. We want to revisit it. It's something we're working on now. We continue to offer our staking program in the rest of the world. In the UK, it's had a tremendous uptake. We offer it on 30 assets. So our plan is to reintroduce it Q1 next year. In terms of yields and so on, I mean, fundamentally, yield represents risk. So the higher the yield, the higher the risk. So just buyer beware. You need to understand how the yield is being generated, and there needs to be clear disclosures by the provider on how is the yield being generated. But we are very determined to reintroduce staking early next year, and it'll be interesting to see how the action against Coinbase develops. I think tactically it was the correct decision for us to withdraw staking, because you also have to get all of your partners comfortable. You have to get your processing partners, you have to get your banking partners comfortable with what you're doing. And so I think tactically it was a sensible thing, but strategically it's something we intend and hope to reintroduce.
And then what about with NFTs? Have you guys implemented those at all? Any future plans for NFTs?
Yeah, so we support NFTs today through Uphold, our self-custody wallet. We're planning to support them through Vault as well. We love NFTs. We think okay. There's sort of two categories. One is representation of arts and artistic creations, but the more interesting long-term trajectory for NFTs is obviously as representations of ownership, as representations of financial contracts. The reality is that today, the regulatory framework isn't there for that latter category of NFTs, but that's the area we're super excited about. But for that to take off, you can't have the situation today, which is an NFT representing ownership would be tied and non-transferable to one single blockchain. That doesn't work. You've got to have cross-chain compatibility. But NFTs is something we definitely want to increase our support for. It's interesting actually that the amount of transactional activity on the XRP ledger that's driven by NFTs at the moment. It's a relatively new standard, but wow, it's really had a huge impact.
Yeah, well, the only time I've used Ethereum was I was receiving NFTs for free, or so I thought. Someone was trying to give me NFTs for free, and then I bought $50-$60 worth of Ethereum for gas fees. Then I had to buy another $50 because I didn't have enough, and so I ended up paying over $100 to just receive an NFT for free. And I'm like, this program is not going to work out, right? And so I think that's what the XRP ledger has done properly is they've been efficient, cheap to use, and now we get the additional utilities coming online. And it's a no-brainer to move on over from these chains that cost you $50 to send an NFT to the XRP ledger, where it's costing you essentially nothing. Now, one final question, Simon, on what you guys are going to be offering here. We talked about staking. We talked about the AMMs. Is there going to be any ability to take out a loan against your holdings through the Uphold platform in the future?
Yes, there is. We certainly hope so. We're working on something at the moment that would allow US customers to have a credit card, and it would allow them to spend on a credit basis secured against their XRP holdings. Wow. So it's something we're taking legal advice on at the moment. We're actually in the process of setting up that team. But yes, we do want to introduce that kind of facility. But I think that we like the idea of a card approach, because one of the things we want to do with Uphold is embed the app in people's daily financial life. So you can spend on the card. Another thing we're introducing early next year is virtual bank account credentials. You'll be able to get your salary a day early. We want you to be able to pay your bills with it. And we're obviously planning to reintroduce the debit card, which we're offering in the United Kingdom today. Right. And we pay 4% back in XRP on every transaction. We absolutely want to bring that back to the US.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited to get on that one, and then you guys had to pull it, which I can't blame you. And I'm just so thankful that you at least allowed us to pick up more XRP, which we definitely took advantage of that. Okay, so now we got to finish up with a couple fun speculation questions. So we'll put out that caveat, and I once again appreciate you coming through, Simon, and for sharing some of your speculation. In regards to this Ripple case, what are your thoughts on how this case goes? Are we going to settle up? Are we truly going to go? The trial dates aren't going to be till Q2 of next year. What are your thoughts on this case conclusion?
I thought Judge Torres's decision was a landmark victory for the crypto industry. It made it very clear that XRP is not inherently a security. A digital token is not a security. As I said earlier, I thought the really smart thing she did was use existing Howey test jurisprudence, didn't introduce new case law, new principles or new concepts. I think that will make it extraordinarily difficult to appeal. I mean, the programmatic sales stuff, and I mean, I do not understand how secondary sales of a digital asset on the secondary market can constitute a security. I mean, this is all about, the Howey test is fundamentally about the use of other people's money for the purpose of profit. That basic test doesn't work on a secondary market, in my view. I think the SEC, this is my own opinion, this isn't Uphold's opinion, but my own opinion is they have to appeal to save face. But I have a high degree of confidence that the appeal won't succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess I already asked you my other question, which was about U.S. banks, institutions, firing up using ODL for XRP, using XRP for ODL, or actually just putting XRP on their balance sheet, which you did say that you think it's kind of inevitable, whether that's this year or next year, it's bound to happen.
I think so. I mean, instant cross-border payments is just such a classic use case for blockchain. We're a company, for example, we have to move money around the world to different entities. It's expensive, difficult, and slow. So there's just such an obvious practical benefit to the XRP ledger that I think I think it's one of those projects that clearly has good adoption outside the United States. The adoption in the US, now that this cement backpack has been lifted, is promising. And what I can say is that we're about to make an announcement that I think a lot of XRP holders will welcome. And I can't say any more at the moment, but I think it's quite a big piece of news that should be announced in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you can feel free to announce that right here, Simon. That's no big deal.
I think it. I better not say any more because I'll go too far. But
there you go.
It's not far away, and you'll be the first to know.
Awesome. And then final question: as the world becomes more tokenized, what are you looking forward to most about what we're creating with these digital assets and this internet of value?
Opening up asset classes so that anybody can participate. I mean, if you look at some of the highest returning asset classes over time, things like venture capital, private equity, they are largely unavailable to ordinary retail investors today. There's no good reason for that. There's no reason it should be a private club and you can only get in if you've only got a certain level of wealth. My own opinion is, with proper disclosures and proper risk appetite and sensible offerings, the tokenization of those asset classes really breaks down some massive barriers to entry that need not exist. So the tokenization of many traditional asset classes is really a big deal. In the UK, where I'm based, buying bonds is expensive and difficult for the ordinary retail investor. It shouldn't be. So the tokenization of existing asset class, I think, is a big deal. We deliberately bought a broker dealer with that in mind 3 or 4 years ago, and we went through a really tortuous process with FINRA to get the permission to buy a broker dealer. But that's what excites me most longer term.
Do you guys plan on having equities listed on your platform in the future?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, we want to offer fractional US equities on the platform. It's not on our short-term roadmap; it's a longer-term plan. But longer term, our vision for Uphold would be, in the retail space, it's something you use every day in your financial life to pay bills and do practical stuff. But it also gives you easy access to multiple asset classes, and you can trade anything to anything instantly between any of those asset classes. That's the longer term vision.
And that's what I loved about Uphold. I'm a big silver guy. I like precious metals too. So when I came to your guys' app and I saw that not only can I still buy XRP, but I can also get exposure to precious metals, you're talking about bringing on equities too. And, just knowing that you guys are working with dozens upon dozens of different exchanges and avenues to find liquidity, and that you don't loan out our deposits, I've been thoroughly impressed. And Simon, I just can't thank you enough for allowing us to fill up our bags during this lawsuit over here in the U.S. and for coming through this morning and sharing the update from Uphold. Very exciting times in the cryptocurrency space, and I think that we definitely are changing a lot, and it's an exciting time to be involved. So thank you once again for coming through, Simon.
It's a pleasure, Zach. Thanks for having me on. Love the channel.
Awesome. All right, everyone, on the way out, if you could do me a big favor, make sure you smash that thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe notification bell. And everything else can be found at my website, zachrector.com. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. God bless.